is it that the US cannot exert more leverage on China and on Russia? If, as our viewers can see on the screen now, President Obama has had a tete-a-tete with both of those leaders in the last month, yet it seems like neither country is cooperating when it comes to the US wanting to have Mr Snowden handed over.
Well, I think this administration has said they're going to draw a line in the sand, and then the line disappears. They say that something's unacceptable, and then they accept it. They are.
So you mean they've completely lost face?
They've lost a good deal of the leverage that one normally has in government-to-government relations by not being able to be firm. They just are not. And people are starting to get the idea, not only Russians and Chinese in their governments, but the Ecuadorians, that there's no problem in standing up to the United States.
Well, that's very damaging, isn't it, for American power and might around the world?
I think it is. I think it's especially so because neither of the two programs that started all this are at all illegal. The first is simply
you would say that, but others would disagree.
I don't think they have a good case. The first is spying on foreigners who may create terrorist attacks against the United States. Governments have been spying on foreigners at least since Joshua sent the spies into Jericho, and probably long before that.
So you're saying this is just the latest iteration of it?
This is that. The second is the government has been, yes, apparently keeping tabs on so-called metadata, which is the phone number that is called, the phone number that does the calling, the duration of the call. That's virtually exactly the same thing as keeping track of the envelope, the address on the envelope, the return address, and not getting into the internal writing in the envelope at all. And that's been legal in the United States, and it's approved by the Supreme Court for 35 years.
So how much damage do you think Edward Snowden has done to U.S. national security?
It depends on the substance of what's in those documents that he has and has turned over, but it could be quite substantial. And the reason it's so serious is that he's given it to the terrorists. Now, he's given it indirectly to the world, but one set of people who have it are the terrorists. So if Mr. Zawahiri in Pakistan decides to plot another attack, his people will be better able to avoid our stopping them because of what Snowden and Assange have done.
But given all of that, why is it that over 1 million people in the US, including a 30-year-old contractor, have top-secret clearance?
Well, that does seem like a great many, but the structure is very substantial.
Well, it can't be that the structure is, but the security clearly isn't, because he hacked it.
Some aspects of the security have worked well over the years, but others have not. We had two terrible spies, Aldrich Ames and Robert Hansen, one CIA, one FBI. On the other hand, you in Britain have had your Philbys and so forth as well.
That was a while ago now.
It was, but there have been one or two more recently. All countries have this vulnerability, and being a very open society, the U.S. and Britain in many ways have the vulnerability more than societies that can stay completely closed. But we wouldn't trade that. We want an open society and freedom, but we also have to have security. And if you opt, as these two men have, Assange and Snowden, for disclosing our defenses, and putting yourself in the place of the Congress and the President and the Supreme Court and the special court.
Then we get to this situation. But what are the options now for the U.S. government as they try to go after Snowden?
I think they have to persuade the countries either that have him now, depending on who that is, Russia maybe, or those that might take him on board, Ecuador, that we are serious and their lives will not be pleasant. We have to think a lot more, frankly, I think, like Ronald Reagan, and a lot less like this administration does.
But if you were the CIA director now, what would be going through your mind?
Well, first and foremost, duty for the director would be to try to understand what has happened and to try to use the American intelligence assets overseas to see what we can find out about where he is, what he took with him, and the like. It's providing information. That's what intelligence is largely about.
James Woolsey, thank you very much for joining us.